So, how do you respond to a job interview? What's your weakness question? What does your answer reflect about you as a person? How do you identify what your weakness is? How not to sabotage your interview when you answer? If you are having these questions, in this video I'm going to share how to navigate this tricky yet common question. So let's think about why employers ask this. They want to see how self-aware you are. They want to see if you're honest. They're also checking to see how prepared you are. This is what they're assessing, not the weakness itself. Unless it is something that automatically disqualifies you. I'm just going to make this example up. So, as an example, if you had some unethical or illegal issues in the past, it may be flagged as a disqualification. Let me know how you have handled this question in a previous interview in the comments below. You may think of saying, I can't think of any weaknesses, but I suggest you don't. Nobody is perfect. Every one of us have weaknesses. Most everybody, except maybe Dalai Lama. He may not have a weakness. I don't know. So, when somebody says, I don't have any weakness, it means they are lying, or they haven't identified it, or they're being overconfident. If you don't even know your weakness, you can't answer this. So you first need to identify what it is. So how do you identify it? Okay, before we go how, do you know what are some traits considered as weakness by employers? Procrastination, impatience, reluctance to delegate, unassertive, uncompromising or being stubborn, strong-willed or controlling, talkative, taking too many responsibilities, uncomfortable taking risks, and many more. I'm just listing a few. And the 5 most common weaknesses that employers hear are procrastination, impatience, uncomfortable taking risks, reluctance to delegate, and communication. So now that you know what they are, how do you identify if you have those weaknesses? I have created a quiz that you can take that will give you just an example of what your weakness could be. And the quiz only addresses the 5 most common weaknesses that I just listed. So click on the link below or copy this URL and go identify your weakness. Go ahead and hit the thumbs up button if you're going to take that quiz. Once you have identified your weakness or weaknesses, you have to put your weakness in a positive light. You do this by talking about what steps you have or are taking to overcome the weakness or mitigate the behavior. So, for example, you could talk about a class or a training you're taking, or tools or apps you're using, or working with a mentor. So, these are some of the examples of how you could show that your weakness in a positive light. By talking about the actions, you're showing that you are self-aware and are honest about yourself. This is a challenging question at an interview. But by preparing for it before your interview, you can show the hiring manager you recognize the areas where you need to upgrade yourself and talk about the steps you're taking to improve yourself. Just as an example, if you identified either by taking the quiz or by yourself, if you identified your weakness as procrastination, You may say something like this: although I met my deadlines, I used to have a problem with procrastination, and I would end up working long days as deadlines approached. I decided I needed to deal with the issue. So I took up classes on program management and time management. I learned how to organize my days and divide projects into smaller chunks. Now I put together a plan as soon as I get a new assignment and work in smaller chunks and avoid procrastination to a large extent. I'm still a work in progress and I'm still working on improving my procrastination. So another example, if the weakness you identified is impatience, you may say something like this: I always aim for delivering the best quality and I get frustrated when things are not done well. I am making an effort to accept that there are different ways of doing things, and I try to see it from the other person's perspective. I am working with a mentor who is helping me understand how to be a better communicator. And I'm beginning to understand that it is better if I provide constructive feedback to help the other person improve. See how you took a weakness and converted it into a positive one. I remember when I interviewed a person a while back. She identified communication as her weakness, especially her lack of assertiveness. She said something about how she was a quiet person and generally did not express her opinions or preferences. Apparently, her manager pointed that out as an area for improvement during the annual review. Her manager suggested she read some books and take some classes, which she enrolled and she started reading. What she told me that I remember was, although it's not a matter of just flipping a switch and making an instant transformation, I have been taking baby steps. In this example, what I'm sharing is it is a work in progress. It is not like it happens, you can get rid of your weakness with a swipe. So these are a few examples of how you could show that you have a weakness and what steps you're taking. But I warn you, don't do the following. I impose a high standard of excellence and aim for perfection. Don't be that person who tries to turn the tables and wrap a strength as a weakness. It will spectacularly backfire. It will show how insincere you are. The interviewer can smell it. Chances of the job offer may pretty much be 0% after that. Another thing to be careful is to not shoot yourself in the foot by saying you have a weakness that can outright put a red flag on your chances of getting the job. Avoid something that's a core competency for the job. If the core competency is presenting to upper management and your weakness is talkative or not being able to present yourself well, if you show that as a weakness, you may not be their first choice to fill the position. So be careful what you say. So take that quiz to identify your weakness. The link is in the description below. I have additional resources about weaknesses along with that. I will say this: preparation is the key to answering this challenging question during interview. So start early, start now, and keep doing this through different phases of your career because you may identify different weaknesses along your career. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel as I will be releasing more videos.